Hello my dear friends, you're in the Military with Summary channel. In this video we're going to discuss the most important events that took place during the previous 12 hours. We have a lot of very interesting updates, so let's start. And first we're going to talk about Berlin. We received additional updates about the situation with the talks between the Ukrainian delegation and the delegation of the United States of America. According to different sources, Ukraine did not accept Witkov's proposal to withdraw troops from Donbass at the negotiations in Berlin. According to the publication, the Ukrainian side insists that the ceasefire must be without preliminary territorial concessions to Russia. The maximum they agreed to is along the front line. At the same time, Ukraine's delegation stated that Vladimir Zelensky and US President Donald Trump's envoy have made real progress in Berlin talks aimed at ending the war with Russia. So, a few more updates about the talks and about the processes that's been taking place since the beginning of this week. Europe has presented a 6-point plan of security guarantees for Ukraine. According to the Ukrainian media, it includes constant military support for Ukraine and maintaining the number of the armed forces of Ukraine at 800,000 people in peacetime. The formation of multinational forces under European leadership within the framework of a coalition of willing with possible actions on Ukrainian territory. The creation of a ceasefire mechanism which will monitor it under US leadership with the participation of international representatives. Investments in the reconstruction of Ukraine, Russian assets in the European Union remain frozen. The obligation to respond with military, intelligence, economic and diplomatic means in the event of an escalation. Support for Ukraine's accession to the European Union. So, as you can see, the Russian Federation will not accept even a single paragraph of this, let's say, security guarantees plan provided by the European Union. Another important thing and another important statement made by Zelensky. Neither the Euro nor de facto do we recognize Donbass as Russian. Zelensky after negotiations with the European Union and the US on peace plan. The United States is looking for compromise approaches and proposing the format of a free economic zone, but this does not mean control by the Russian Federation. The issue of territories remains one of the key ones, and there is no consensus on it yet. Today or tomorrow we will finalize the documents, then the US will hold consultations with the Russians. In the coming days after that, we will hold consultations with the US President, after which our teams will meet in the USA in the near future. I think maybe even on weekends. So as you can see, the talks will continue, and now the talks most likely will take place on the territory of the Russian Federation and on the territory of the United States of America in Miami. The United States wants a quick end to the war. Quality is important to us. If speed and quality match, we are for it. I believe we are very close to strong security guarantees, where there is a Fifth Amendment as in NATO. There is a mirror Fifth Amendment for everyone in the alliance. The USA and Ukraine support Mayor's idea of a Christmas truce. This decision depends on the political will of Russia. A reparational loan or other use of frozen assets of the Russian Federation is a financial guarantee of the security of Ukraine. There are two scenarios. The first one, if the war ends, the funds will be used to restore the country. In case of a continuation of aggression, Ukraine is counting on 45 billion euro in assistance annually for defense and security. In the first version of the peace plan, there were certain points that I do not want to comment on, but it is important that they are not there today. If there is a ceasefire, there will be elections. We need 60 to 90 days of ceasefire to hold elections in Ukraine. Few more important statements. The first one is the so-called coalition of the willing has completed plans for deployment of troops in Ukraine in the event of ceasefire. That was stated by Starmer. And another important thing is that MERS announced the allocation of more than 11 billion euro for military support to Ukraine in 2026. So we see that nobody is going to stop these things that are happening right now on the territory of Ukraine. The war most likely will continue because we saw during the previous days lots of waves of escalation. And for example, yesterday in the evening, the pro-Ukrainian sources published this video, a very important video published from the city by the name of Novorossiysk. In this video, we can see a Russian port with ships, and here we can see a very heavy explosion right exactly at this point that was added to the map. So the Ukrainian sources are saying that as a result of use of subsea baby drone, they managed to damage or even to destroy the Russian submarine Varshavyanka, so in the port of Novorossiysk. And this is another round of escalation. This is another signal sent to the Russian Federation about the weapons that Ukrainians currently have. So most likely Russians will counterattack and will strike back in coming days, and so the situation will just worsening. Anyway, we still haven't received anything from the Russian side regarding the Christmas truce and many other different things that were discussed in Berlin. Most likely the Russians are waiting for the full version of documents that the parties managed to reach during the Berlin talks, and then Russians will make their final statement. Now let's return back to Ukraine and let's discuss the situation along the line of combat contact. During the previous 12 hours, we received lots of very important updates, and the most important updates are coming from the Zaporozhye direction, where the Russians continued the battle for the river of Gaichul. During the previous night, the Russians managed to improve their positions significantly, as you can see according to this map. Before we start, first let's compare the map between the dates. So this is the situation by the end of the 15th of December of 2025, and we see that by the end of the 15th of December, the Ukrainians controlled probably up to 80% of the city of Hulyaipole. But the situation has been changed significantly by the morning of the 16th of December. Ukrainians currently, according to different mappers, control just probably 60 or even 50% of the settlement, the rest either under control of Russians or in the gray zone. So we have lots of changes. Some of them were confirmed by different mappers, especially we're talking about the southeastern part of the city of Hulyaipole. Some of them were confirmed by geolocations. For example, this video was published by pro-Ukrainian sources, and here we can see how Ukrainians were attacking the Russians through the settlement of Hulyaipole. So this building was geolocated, and this is exactly the building that was attacked by the armored forces of Ukraine. Based on this video, we came to the conclusion that the Russians managed to answer the first Travnya street in the northern part of the city. Another video was published basically from the central part of the settlement. Here we can see the same source that published the video, and there are lots of episodes, and one of the episodes of FPV drone attacks took place also in this area. So based on this video, we came to the conclusion that Russians managed to break through Ukrainian defense along the river of Gaichul and to dig in deeper. Now the clashes are taking, we can say, in the central part of the city or even in the western part. Based on all these reports, we can make a conclusion that most likely the days are numbered, and let's wait and see, of course, what is going to be next. Furthermore, the Russians continue their offensive operation in the northern parts along the river of Gaichul. I would like to remind you that during the previous 3 days, we got reports that Russians managed to cross the river of Gaichul. First, we got a report that Russians crossed the river at 2 places. The next day, we received the report that Russians managed to cross the river at a 3rd place. The Russians managed to establish complete control over the settlement of Peshchane, according to pro-Russian sources. And today, we got additional report that Russians improved their positions in this area. According to different mappers, the Russians answered the settlement of Andreevka from the south, so these are the changes between the dates, and the Russians began offensive operation towards the next settlement on the Ukrainian side of the river of Gaichul. We're talking about the village by the name of Gerasimovka. So Russians are trying to improve their positions, most likely to the north of the main defense layer, and then Russians will outflank the main defense layer and will begin offensive operation in the southern direction with the purpose to establish complete control over the entire Zaporozhye wall defense layer. Now let's move further and let's discuss the situation in the Konstantinovka direction. During the previous 12 hours, several sources reported that Russians launched their major offensive operation to the northeast of the settlement by the name of Konstantinovka. The Russians are advancing, and currently the Russians are trying to attack in the direction of the settlement of Bilokuzminovka and Fyodorovka. There are very heavy clashes, and this information was stated by different neutral mappers. As for the Seriously Mine direction, during the previous 12 hours, we haven't received anything special. Now let's talk about the Kupiansk direction. During the previous 12 hours, we received additional changes in Ukrainian favor. So this is the situation by the end of the 15th of December, and this is the beginning of the 16th of December. According to pro-Ukrainian sources, according to neutral mappers and pro-Russian sources, the armed forces of Ukraine managed to improve their positions in the area of the western part of the city of Kupiansk. By the way, today several pro-Russian sources and the Minister of Defense of the Russian Federation published an information that the situation is under complete control of the armed forces of the Russian Federation. That reports that were published by Ukrainian side has nothing common with the reality. Anyway, we see that both the Russians and the Ukrainians are publishing completely different, sometimes opposite reports to each other. I suggest to wait a bit more to understand what exactly is happening in the area of the city of Kupiansk. But everything that we can see right now from this front line tell us about one thing, that currently there are very heavy clashes between Russians and the Ukrainians, and currently both sides are fighting for the initiative in this direction. Ukrainians are counterattacking in this area just with one purpose, to have stronger cards before talks and during the talk process that is currently taking place in Berlin and will continue in Miami and in Moscow. The Russians are trying to save their initiative in this area, and they want to save their strong cards as well. And that's it for the short video. Military Summary channel reminds to condemn any violence in the world. Thank you for your watching. Subscribe to my channel, put your likes, join my Patreon, and have a good day. Bye bye.